think we can start. I'm going to buy some more time for anybody else that's joining late by just quickly doing an introduction of myself since I haven't sent any message in the box. So again, thanks once again for joining everyone. My name is Haneef and I'm co-founder at Aster and also Leonine. So I'm an entrepreneur, very passionate about entrepreneurship, and I'm also always very keen to help other entrepreneurs in the business, to grow thriving businesses, which was one of the main reasons I decided to share this payroll tool that I've used for over 8 years at one of my companies. So in this call, I'm going to do a very short and quick demo. Doing February payroll. We're already at the end of February, and most companies are planning to pay salary, if not today, maybe tomorrow or next. So I'll do a quick example using the tool I already shared with you guys, how you would work with this to run payroll very quickly. And at the end is a surprise that we also added, to this tool to make it even more useful and powerful for businesses. So without wasting any more time, I'll jump right into it. So as you can see, I'm already sharing my screen, and like I explained in the initial video I shared, this payroll tool is built to be all encompassing in terms of all the different things that would affect your payroll, from salaries to payee taxes to pension, NHF, and everything else. And like I mentioned, all you need to do as a user once you've downloaded and saved the file is to put in your employee information. Now, one thing I didn't explain in the initial video was the input sheet, which is like the engine behind the computation. So I'll just spend a minute or two to explain what happens on this input sheet, just so that you're aware. There's a button here where you can choose any of the month of the year. So depending on the payroll you want to run. So if you're running payroll for February, like we're going to be doing, you choose February. Now, most companies have different policies for the day they pay salary. Some companies pay on the 25th, some companies pay 27th, some very wicked companies pay on the very last day of the month, right? So we're going to assume this company is going to pay on the 25th. So payroll day will be 25th. And what that means is that every time you run payroll, it will assume that that's the 25th of the month you chose. Then there are a few inputs that we leverage for the model. Now, if you're running pension, if you want to pay pensions for your staff, which is the RSA contributions, the policy says that it has to be a contributory scheme, which means the employee has to pay some part from their salaries, and then the employer has to pay some additional part. It all adds up to 18%. Now, it's not compulsory for all businesses. If you have less than, I think, 15 staff, it's not compulsory, but you can decide to opt in even if you have less than that. So we've built it in. So if you're running a team of more than 15, or if you just want to do pension, you can actually run pension with this tool as well. Then we also have provisions for NHF, the National Institute Training Fund, and the Industry Training Fund as well. Now, one of the big changes in the recent tax law is that the consolidated relief, which is something that reduces the tax able income of your staff, and then by so doing reduces the amount you have to pay in payee taxes, is being replaced with what is now called rent relief. So now, with the new tax laws, you need to know what the rent your staff are paying, each of your staff, what annual rent are they paying, and then they have the liberty to claim up to 20% of that. However, the maximum benefit you can get from this is 500,000. So again, when we get to the input, I'll show you how you can just record how much rent your staff are paying. And then once you put that, that fits into the calculation as well. Now, these are nice to have or voluntary inclusions. So if you're not running payroll, you don't have to check this box. But if you want to run payroll, then you select this box so that once the computation is done, it's going to rather pension. If you want to run pension, you select this box, and then so once you run the payroll system, it also calculates the pension contributions for both the employee and the employer. If you want to do NHF deductions as well, which then makes your staff eligible to access, mortgage through the NHF, you can also do that. And then the life assurance premium you can also do. I think these ones are more common, so we'll work with these ones in this example. The last bit of the input is the progressive tax table, right? And I think important information here from the new tax law is that the first 800,000 of every of your staff's income is tax-free. So the applicable rate is 0%. And then for the other amounts, depending on how much they earn, there's a progressive tax that goes from 15% all the way to 25%. This 25% only applies to income above 50 million naira. So I've taken the pain to build all these things into the tool for you, so you don't have to worry about, all the competition and all the madness that's going on there. And then all you have to do to run your payroll with this tool is to go into the employee list. This is all where the real action is. Now, the bunch of columns that we've put in here, because if you are using this the way you should use it, this might be like your payroll master, where anybody you hire comes on this list, and then when you fire them, you can update it. Now, if you do it in that form, you might want to collect a bunch of information from your staff just so that at least you have those records. But what you actually need to run this tool is just the red fields, the employee ID, the first name and last name, and then at the minimum, the basic salary you're paying them, like the gross annual. The amount for you that you put for salary has to be the annual figure, right, for the whole year, not just for 1 month take home. Now, the typical way is that it's broken down into different buckets. So you have basic housing, transport, which are like the core. Then you have entertainment, utility, furniture, education, leave. For very small businesses, you might not have broken down the salaries into this, which is fine. But if you've broken it down, then that's even better, right? So once you add that information, the model notes it and then it leverages that to calculate. And then, like I mentioned, there's a field here for the annual rent. So you can put any rent, the annual rent your staff, each of your staff are currently paying, so that can be used to calculate that rent relief. Then very important is to collect things like the bank information, because like I mentioned, there's a surprise at the end, which can even make you automate the payment of your salaries as well. So collecting the bank information for your staff and the account numbers is also important. And then finally, the tax ID. If you don't already have it, you should also collect it. Again, these are nice to have, but the red fields, which are just 4 of them, are the key ones to add. Now, for this sample, I'm going to add 5 employees just to make it easier. Or maybe I'll add 1 more just to show you how you can bring in new stuff. But assuming you are doing this for your company and I already had these sample numbers, what you might want to do is actually delete all the old ones. You can keep one as a sample so that at least you know the way to enter the information, but you can actually just delete and replace it. So if you already have like a list where your employees are, you can copy and paste, but if not, you can just type in information here. So I'm going to come in here and just type in new data just to show you how you build this, because I don't have something to copy easily now. And then I can just put, any dates I want to put here. Again, these blue fields are not compulsory, right? So you can just put anything you like in those ones. You can skip. And then for this one, I'm just going to put an amount here. For the bank detail, because I want to be able to show something, I'm going to use same bank detail I have here. Now I don't need to add anything. The beauty of this is once you add the information, that's all you need to do. And then if you want to add another one, you can type in the next line and so on and so forth. And if you're copying and pasting, you can just paste in the same fields as well. Now, assuming I have just these 2 employees, I can then go into the monthly pay computation. So again, the first step is employee list updated with the information that you need to run the payroll. The key ones are the ID, the name, and then the salary that you're paying them, the annual salary for the whole year. Now, once you go into the monthly payee table, there are already some lines here which are like illustrative. Now, since I have only 2 employees, I can delete the other last 3 lines by highlighting them and just, deleting those lines. And then for this one, the new information I have here, let's see what's happening here. So let's change this. Okay, so this is the second staff. So I changed this. There's a drop down here which you can always use to choose the employee. So whenever you add any employee, it will come up on this drop down, the employee ID. And then to change, you can just select it. And then once you select that, it will bring in the detail of that employee. So I added Tinubu Trump, and that's the employee 002 that was there. So the information comes in. You can verify it. Again, it's salary. So you want to make sure the correct information is going in. So the annual basic for this guy that's a lot of money, like 5 billion. Let's reduce that number a bit just to make it a bit more reasonable. Okay, make it 5. So now once you do that, that will also update here. Now, once you've done this, the next thing is you want to select the first record on this list, excluding the heading, like I mentioned earlier, and then you press Ctrl A, which helps you copy all or select all. And then once you've selected, you can right click and do copy, or you can simply press Ctrl C. Now, the final step in terms of putting in the information is to go to the database. And since I don't have any record in the database now, you can just come to the first cell here, A2, under transaction ID, and simply paste values. Paste values. Again, when you're pasting, don't just do Control V because that will paste formulas. So you want to do paste values, you can right click and then you see a command here that says paste values. So once you paste values, you're good to go. You can now go into your reports and check out your payroll. First time you go into the report, the new data won't be showing just yet because you need to refresh it. So what you need to do is once you click on the report page, you can go into the data and then there's a button for refresh all here. Once you select refresh all, that will take some seconds to run. And then by the time it's done, your payroll will be ready to go. And that's it. So once you do that, the payroll will be ready to go. Take a minute. And then now we have the payroll showing here. We can see the new stuff we added, and you can see the amount that goes in as net pay. So you can see the net pay was computed based on the, all we provided was the annual figure of, for example, we did 5 million for Mr. Employee 2, and then the model already calculates what the net pay for that staff would be. And for the previous staff we had, you can see the net pay. If we go into the payee sheet as well, that would also have been updated. So on the payee sheet, you can now see that we have these two staff, and these are their respective monthly payee. If we go into the pension sheet, because we enabled pension, you can see what the employee RSA would be. You can see what the employer RSA would be, and the total amount that you need to remit would be here. So that's how you run payroll with this tool. I'm going to pause now to see if there are questions, comments. You can raise your hand, or you can, send messages into the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to take them. So I'm going to wait for a few seconds to see if there are any questions. Akeem, Shani, do you guys have any questions or comments? Any questions? Okay, I'm going to allow Mike for you guys, just in case you're trying to say something or raise your hand and we're not getting that feedback. But I think I just allowed you guys mic. So if you have any questions or comments, happy to take them now. Okay. Seeing Shani says this is fantastic, awesome. Is it possible to video so we can reference this? Do you mean recording? If you're talking about recording, yes, we're recording this and we're going to make it available as well. Shani, if that's your point, yeah, recording, yes, we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to make it available. You have anything from you?
It's fine. It's very, very clear. I just want to see, can you please click on the payee tab?
The payee tab,
does it
okay.
give the breakdown of the calculations or just the final figure?
So for the payee tab, it just gives, this is reports, right? All what you see on the reports here is just the final figures. Now the way this tool was done is the calculations are pretty much abstracted, but if you want to see like the basis, most of the calculations, where you go to is the computation. So for example, if you wanted to review the calculation, where you would need to go to is the payee computation tab, and then you can see what the gross income is, the addition to get the gross. You can see the taxable income that was computed and some of the relevant calculations you can see there. But on the report side, it just gives you like schedules and the details around that, yeah. Now, if you want more detail on like, so for example, how do you go from a gross income to that amount? You can see the details like payee, basic, ABC on the report by the side. So the way the reports are structured is you have current month on the left-hand side, right? And then you have a second table with a detailed breakdown that shows you for each staff, what was the basic, what was the pension, what was the this, what was the that. So you can see that on this side. And then by the time you've run payroll for like several months, the last table here gives you like an all-time history. So you see month on month, and then you can see whether there were promotions or whether there were additions and whatnot. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, cool. Any other question? What if the staff didn't have rent? So if the staff doesn't have rent, then that means you put zero in the annual rent. And what that means is that there will be no relief. So you're not getting any deductible, and which means you'll be paying higher tax than maybe if you had rent. Right. What I've seen some people do is, even if the person is living for free, they might say, okay, what's the typical rent for that kind of apartment? And then they use that figure. But one thing to note is that the taxman may ask for documentary evidence like an agreement or receipt or whatever. So whatever you put forward should also be justifiable. I hope that answers that. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I will just say the last part of this, which I said was more like a surprise, is we've gone ahead to add a button here which enables you actually just pay your tax. So if I was to click on this Pay with Aster button on my screen, what that does is it opens up the Aster app. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Aster, but Aster, it's a software as a service company, like financial management tool for SMEs in Nigeria, and it helps you with things like invoicing, expensing, financial reports, tax compliance, and all that. At the heart of it, the main goal is to automate bookkeeping for small businesses, so you don't have to spend too much time trying to keep your books or trying to do accounts, or paying too much money to consultants to get it done for you. So Asta really makes all that very easy. And like we just saw now, by just clicking a single button, you're able to go right into Asta. It already has the expense fields filled for you, the amount, everything you need to settle this particular payroll is already put in. And then all you can then do next is click on pay. The accounts have been verified, the bank accounts, and then you can simply pay. What we do with this in Asta is we automate that bookkeeping in a way that with one step you can pay your vendors or your staff, and then also record it in your books. And then at the end of the period, you have real-time financials that can help you get decisions, made faster based on actual performance of the business, and can really help the business function more productively and grow. So we've added that. If you are interested in that, you can go to asterbi.com to give it a spin, register, and try. There are other features there. But since we're talking about payroll, the best part of payroll is actually paying the salary and paying the taxman and making sure nobody's slapping you with penalties. And so Aster actually helps you do that as well. So that's all I have for you guys today. If there are any additional comments, questions, I'm happy to take it. Well, aside from that, I'll just wish you guys well. And please do let me know if you have other questions that come up later or if you have feedback for us. Yeah.